drogués sont tués au crack. 3 heures j'ai pété la craie. Comme des fous on vit sans regret. Je veux que maman soit fière de moi. Chaque jour mon atelier c'est la folie. Je vis sans savoir ce que je vais faire demain. Yeah, 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 yeah. Obligé de rouler avant de m'endormir. Yeah, 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 yeah. Obligé de rouler avant de m'endormir. Le pollen, le shit, la matière. Les billets, le bénéf m'attire. Plus mature, finir locataire. Avoir peut-être plus grand chose à se dire. Petit fait des cambriolages. J'casse de l'appart en
Well, hello there. Coming to you live from the West Coast, the Golden State, SoCal, Southern California. And it is a whopping 88 degrees right now. Well, it certainly isn't the hottest, but it sure is hot. So, thank you for tuning in. Today we will be talking about being free, letting go, boundaries, and the process of letting go, and banishing and purification. So, in the recent, I guess, months, I have kicked up a few things. I've kicked up some meditation, I've kicked up some banishing rituals and purification rituals and protection rituals. Some people have asked me to do some protection rituals for them, and I have been continuing to do those things. Banishing to me is a form of protection. Banishing unwanted energies and influences, situations and experiences, sometimes people or even intelligences. You may not have a name for it, they may not be in the physical form. But nonetheless, even the banishing of your own unwanted, self-sabotaging thoughts and feelings and behaviors. And within all of that, there is the challenge of sorting out what it is you want to banish, or who it is, or what it is you want to banish, and what it is you need to sort out and balance and not necessarily banish. Uncomfortable feelings, negative emotions aren't necessarily to be banished. Sometimes you need to make a space for them. I think the same goes for a moderate amount of unpleasant criticism from your loved ones and your friends. Having said that, it's a challenge because sometimes it isn't easy to see whether it's something where you need to put a boundary down or if it's something that you need to reevaluate again and make a different decision on. But I'm a big believer in banishing, and I don't just mean the actual act of doing a banishing ritual or a meditation ritual. I also include a multi-pronged approach. Matter of fact, I like multi-pronged approaches when it comes to banishing and purification. That includes cleaning the environment of where the ritual takes place. If it's a dedicated ritual space, that space needs to be cleaned each and every time before the actual ceremonial magic begins. And it is a way to build your intention, to strengthen your intention. and to strengthen your powers of focus. There's a lot of things that will distract you in this day and age. Cell phones, computers, televisions, ads. There's all kinds of things pulling you every which way. So, getting down to the business of doing meditation and ritual work, specifically banishing rituals and protection rituals, requires more than just the my way, right away, hamburger fast food drive-through process. It includes, like I said, cleaning that ritual space physically, shampooing the carpet, scrubbing the walls with bleach, cleaning the windows, dusting, getting the cobwebs out off the corners of the room, airing out, turning on the attic fan and opening the windows to air out that space with fresh air. And also closing yourself off as you begin to do the work, turning off cell phones and computers, asking if you're living with other people, if they're living with you, asking them to not disturb you for X amount of hours. And closing that door. And then there's the business of focusing your mind on that one thing to the exclusion of everything else for that period of time. And that isn't easy. A lot of people are not able to do that. But it becomes easier with practice. It becomes a lot easier with practice because your mind starts to go into that zone by default. The minute you decide, boom, it is there. But that only comes from many years of practice, regular practice. So I have been doing these things for a long time, and there are cycles throughout the year where I kick that up, and it has been time for some months now to kick it up, and I have been kicking that up. My number one thing with ritual work, with banishing, is to set boundaries on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Boundaries. And boundaries is I think boundaries can be a challenge for just the ordinary, everyday person. We all have things that we might need to let go of a little bit. You don't have to completely let it go, some of these things. Some things you may have to completely let go. But we all have things in our lives, people, places, and things that we have a hard time letting go of. Some people have certain drug addictions, fentanyl, crystal meth. For others, it might be alcohol. For others, it could be a porn addiction, gambling addictions, things that need to be let go of. And sometimes certain dysfunctional situations in life, or even people. Some people have a hard time letting go of that dysfunction and toxicity. Excuse me. And there might be a reason of that. It might be that that dysfunction and that toxicity and that danger may serve a purpose to that person. And what can you do? What can you do? The best thing you can do, if you really care about a person or love that person, you have to let them go. You have to let them be free and live the life path that they're going to live. And that's really hard sometimes. Letting go. Letting go is very hard. The first time I really realized my first recollection of letting go was when I was about 4 or 5 years old and my hamster died. I had no choice. And it was very, very hard for me. I cried for a long time over my pet. And throughout life, there are many things I've had to let go. Many people, places, and things I've had to let go for one reason or another. And you have had to let go of many things, many people, places, and things. And life is about letting go. The ultimate letting go is letting go of your life, your physical life. Because you and I, and everyone living now, and everyone that will ever live, is going to die at one point. We are born dying. We are born to die. So I always keep that in the back of my mind, that ultimately I will have to do the big letting go, which is dying, letting go of this life. Letting go of this life. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on much more than usual. Letting go is a process. It doesn't just happen from one day to the next. Especially if a person has been living a certain way or being in a certain situation. When you look at women with domestic violence, a lot of them go through that cycle, that abuse cycle, where they reach out for help because they're getting beaten by their husband or boyfriend, or the wife is beating the husband or the boyfriend. Women can do domestic violence too. In any case, or family members are beating each other. In any case, the cycle continues. The person reaches out for help. They may call the police. The police come and arrest the abuser. And then a short time later, they're back together and it starts all over again. And in the process, family and friends are just drugged into all kinds of mess, and stress. And it just doesn't end because the person keeps going back. They can't let go. As unfortunate as it is, the statistics show that at some point that person is going to get badly injured or even killed because that cycle doesn't change unless there is a letting go. But if you've ever had someone in your family or in your friend circle that has been a victim of domestic violence that continue to go back to their abuser over and over, then you may understand and know that feeling of powerlessness and helplessness you have for that loved one that you would like to help but can't. You may have tried everything. And every time that person eventually goes right back to that abuser. So, as an adult, there is that part where you have to let that person be free, set them free, release them, because they have to live the path that they are to live. We each get to decide what life path we want to live. No one has the right to judge it, not even you. You don't have the right to judge your own life path. But you must live it because you exist. And so, in my lifetime, I've worked with that letting go. And just like any other human being, there are some situations where it's easier for me than others. But one thing I've realized is, once again, it is a process. It is a process over time and space. It isn't just like a light switch, boom. It doesn't happen like that. It may seem like that, but underneath the surface, there has been a process that has been working and processing for quite some time before that person is able to let go. Banishing, the whole banishing thing includes letting go. One of the things about banishing meditations and banishing work and protection work and ritual protections, protection rituals and banishing protection rituals is that it isn't just one thing. It is a composite of qualities and intentions, which includes detachment. Detaching yourself from people and places and things and experiences and situations that are not on that path that you are on. We are all on our own path, but sometimes we find kindred spirits in physical form that seem to be on a similar path. And we find camaraderie and friendship and love and support in that. But sometimes things change, people change, you are changing. Everything is changing constantly. If there's one thing that never changes, is that things change. Life is all about change. And as we change and progress, there are certain things that we tend to let go of. We have to let go of and make room for other things now, because it's a change. I'm no stranger to change and transitions. My first huge change hit me like a brick. It was so shocking and scary and overwhelming. And that was the day I was told we were moving to America. Everything that I knew, everything that I've ever lived up until that point was going to change drastically. I had to let go of all my friends. I had to let go of my whole world. And there was no one to support me or to comfort me or to help me through it. I had to do it on my own. And then puberty came, teenage years. Talk about a change, a transition from being a child to now becoming a young adult and all the things that go along with that. Many different changes after that. Many different changes. Some easier than others. But one thing that never changes is change. Change will be there forever. Even in death, there is change. So, having said that, I'm about to take a puff over here from the Maven Genetics. Smoking on some, I'm smoking on a pre-roll here. A sativa premium indoor flower. Cannabis pre-rolls. Blueberry Skittles. So this is a strain, a cross between blueberry skunk and tangy. Very delicious. Maven Genetics. Love these. Whoa. Oh. All right, people. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Back to the banishing. Death is a form, to me, death and life are two sides of the same coin. And part of the archetype of death, as far as archetypes go, death is the ultimate letting go. And when you're working with that archetype of death, visually and mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, it can definitely help that process of letting go. Some things take a short time and you can let them go. Some things in life will take many, many years for you to process and let go. And some things you may spend an entire lifetime of letting go. And that's okay. Not everything is meant to be let go at the same time. And keep in mind, if you find yourself in a certain instance where you know, okay, I need to kind of pull back from this thing here, but you can't, or you haven't succeeded the way you might think you should, keep in mind that that might be one of those things that takes a lifetime or many years, and that it is a process that you continually work at. It's not about failing, it's about continually working on a process. So I work with archetypes. Tarot cards are one of the easiest tools to work with archetypes with, and the death card is one of my favorite cards. Not because I'm wanting to die or depressed, but because it is a archetype that can assist in that process of letting go and having a healthy detachment and indifference where required and where needed. And I've found that to be something that has helped me. I've been able to let go of things. Some things have been easier than others. But I have been working continuously for many, many years on certain things that I have recognized as something that may be a lifetime process of letting go. And there is no, it's not whether I've succeeded or failed. It is just one of those things you need to be working on for the rest of your life. You're never going to get it done. You're never going to get it done. And we all have these things, and we all tend to beat ourselves up sometimes because we want this to succeed already. We want to do it already, and we beat ourselves up over it sometimes. But keep in mind, it is a process. And some people are able to let go quicker and sooner than others of certain things. And that's okay too. No, we're not in a competition here. We're all individuals with our own individualized life experience. So we may be quicker in some things than the next guy, but that guy might be quicker in other things than we are. And that's okay. That's why there's many, many different people and different individuals in existence, because it is about the whole process. The Four of Discs is also a really good card, an archetype. In the Thoth deck, it is the Four Towers. It is a moat, a military moat. And it is the squareness, the square energy, the stability, the power of that archetype that can be used visually and mentally to set boundaries. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that will be able to tell you everything about how you should live and how you should be better than you. But the bottom line is your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your values, your opinions, your dreams, your experiences, your space, be it mental space or physical space, and objects that belong to you versus objects that belong to others. All of these things are included in boundaries. Your physical body as well. So someone reaching out to touch you, if you don't want to be touched, you have to set that boundary. Some people are more touchy-feely. Some cultures are more touchy-feely. So these are different things that one will have to consider depending on the situation. Thoughts, opinions, and values. There will be people that will definitely not agree with you. Some of them may even try to convince you or force you of another opinion or value, or coerce you or pressure you. You know, there's psychological peer pressure, group pressure. And this happens a lot. It happens, you know, people at a job, working in a corporation, the corporate culture, depending on the corporate culture. Some companies have a toxic corporate culture. So if you're not careful, you'll pick up that toxicity, bring it home to the family, and here you are. So that's where boundaries come into place. And you may want to reevaluate if you want to continue working in such a toxic workplace in the first place. I've been I've had jobs offered to me at companies that were not very healthy. No workplace is perfect, for sure. But some places are definitely more toxic than others. Another thing I like about the death card and the death archetype in the tarot deck is that it has the ability to help manifest and assist in not just detachment, but also in neutralizing. Because the idea of death, there's nothing there. There is no energy there. It's dead. It's dead. There is nothing there. It's neutral. And this is where that can come in handy, because if you're able to neutralize your inner self as far as a situation, perhaps it might be a disagreement. and you're able to neutralize yourself and your feelings and your attitude within that scope. That's real power. That's real freedom. To truly be neutralized. You cannot change other people, and you don't want to do things to force your will on another person. But what you can do is change yourself. You can change your mind. You can change your feelings. You can change your perception. You can change how you process your outer environment and the experiences around you. These are all within your power. And I would say that is the greatest power, is to be able to change yourself, to systematically have a system and a formula on hand to neutralize yourself whenever it is called for. And in life, there are plenty of opportunities and plenty of times where you might want to have that as a tool and an ability to neutralize yourself. Some situations you won't be able to get away from. There might be someone at work, a coworker, and you are stuck at that job for a minute at least. You have to, pay bills. You can't just up and quit. So you're going to have to deal with that person. You can't kick that person out. You can't get rid of that person. But what you can do is neutralize yourself. You don't want to do anything to that person because that person has free will. And we all deserve to have our free will and to live our life accordingly. But now, you're able to neutralize yourself. You're able to become detached and indifferent to the whole drama and the whole thing. And that's where a lot of power lies, in the ability to change yourself. Because if you're neutral, if you're detached, let's say you were in the middle of an argument with someone, and this person is really let's say this person is really charged, and they might be really ugly to you, and you might be really ugly to them, and it goes on and on and on, and other people are roped into it and triangulated, and before you know it, you've just got a whole Jerry Springer show happening, just people just tearing at each other. At some point, you got to stand back. And if you look at the whole thing as an outsider, each side is trying to convince the other side of their rightness and how the other side is wrong. Isn't that how it always is? Everybody's busy trying to prove the other person wrong and prove themselves how right they are, how much better and right they are. And it never ever ends. It never gets received on either end. It only escalates the whole thing. So at some point, you just step away and become detached. And you say, okay, it's time to neutralize and detach. It's time to let go. And you can come back to that discussion at another time. Sometimes when friends or loved ones get together and they have a disagreement, things can get heated. So that's when some people may pull back and say, you know what? We'll continue this another time when we can talk about this a little bit more calmly. Right now, emotions are charged, and that's okay. We're not going to just ignore it and look away, but right now we're just going to let go and retreat. And come back and discuss it at a future point. Sometimes you won't be able to do that. Sometimes you may realize this situation is a little bit worse than others. And then there's a different kind of letting go. Letting go of people, places, and things that are not on that path that you are on. I'm a big believer in reevaluating yourself and also the path that you're on a regular basis. Looking at your big why. What is your big why? And why is that your why? How come? And asking that question of yourself on a regular basis, even if you've answered it to yourself a million times. Like I said, life is all about change. You change, I change. So your why might change. It might be, the big picture might stay the same, but the details might change over time, and that's okay. But that path that you're on, it might change too. You might decide, this path that I'm on here, while I've enjoyed it, and while it is great, I'm now looking for an alternate path. And that's okay too. You know, I played keys for a long time. And then I decided I wanted to play bass and drums. And that's okay too. I used to love to go fishing. And then I decided I wanted to do other things. A couple of weeks ago, I was out and about with one of my acquaintances that runs a wildlife rescue. And I had helped her over the course of a few months with some orphaned possum babies. They were tubies, as they were known. Tubies is when literally you have to tube feed them and you have to insert the tube down into their throats. It's a really thin, tiny tube. I didn't do the tubing. I only helped feed them when they were older, to suck off of a little baby possum nipple that she orders from a online wildlife rescue supply company. They have special nipples for baby possums. So these nipples are attached to the end of a syringe that is filled with specific baby possum formula. And so I have helped feed baby possums, among other things, baby squirrels, and other wildlife. So these possums were dear to my heart. These little babies were dear to my heart. And I knew I had to let go, because that was the whole point, to rehabilitate them and let them go out into the wild. So when they were old enough, she calls me up and she says, listen, the possums are old enough to be released. I want to release them tonight. Will you join me? Will you help me release some possums? I said, okay. And we went out to the wooded area. There was a creek nearby. It was a little bit of a hike. We had the possums in 2 pet carriers. The possums were old enough to be released. They were still young. They were still juveniles, but they were definitely old enough now to go out there and be free. We had a total of about 12 or 13. So once we got to the location where we were going to release them, I opened the pet carrier, and The first one came out, and he or she walked on out and walked past the rocks down into the lower valley area, and he was gone. The rest of them were shy. They didn't want to come out. They were afraid. Imagine that. Afraid of freedom. Afraid to be free. We waited a couple of minutes to see if they would just walk on, crawl on out. Nope, wasn't happening. So we had to tilt the kennel gently to kind of scoot them on out. And a few reluctantly scooted on out and started walking off down into that valley where the rocks were. And off they were. 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. They were sniffing, and it was all new and exciting and interesting. And as they were walking off, I wished them well. I said, goodbye. Goodbye, little ones. We love you, and go forth and have a family and have a long, happy, healthy possum life. And it was beautiful, but also sad for me. Because like I said, I had become attached to them a little bit. And I was happy for them, but I was also sad. Because I had to let go in order for them to live the life that they were meant to be. Live the life that they were meant to live. And for them to be free. We had to set them free. If we really love these animals the way we say we do, then we must set them free. Well, there was a few that clung on to the back part. They clung on to each other. They were afraid. We finally got them out, but there was a small one. It was still a little bit small, and it was not coming out. Completely afraid of the freedom. So we took that one back and we said, all right, we'll give that one a few more weeks till it gets a little bigger. But the rest of those possums, I had to go and help set free. And it was such a beautiful but also very sad moment for me. Because I remembered how small and tiny they were, and how I had held them and fed them and cuddled with them. And of course, they were constantly opening their little mouths in a defensive posture. That's what possums do. They open their mouths. But when they're that little, their teeth don't hurt. So if they do bite you, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't damage you. Now, I would say, do not go near a wild adult possum, because they will bite through your bone if they are confronted and if they feel in danger. So, but yes, that is about letting go. I think when you really truly love someone as a loved one and as a friend, or even as a lover, if the time comes for you to have to let them go, then that is what you must do. Set them free. Be free. Be free. Go forth and be free. And it can be a mixture of beauty and sadness. Some people are meant to be in your life for a lifetime. Some people are only meant to be in your life for a certain amount of time. And that's the way life is. Not everyone will stay in your life forever. You won't stay in other people's life forever. We all must die, remember? But somewhere in between the life and death part, you may not be in someone's life but for a short period of time. That is all you were meant to be, is just for a short period of time for that person. And vice versa, that person may only be meant to be a certain amount of time in your life. Stars in the celestial heavens cross paths, and then they don't. We have different orbits. We have a solar system that is in a different orbit than other systems out in the universe. And even different planets have different orbits and different moons, even. So this is from the largest to the smallest. It is about a process. I've had the opportunity to know a lot of people in my life. A lot of people. All sorts of people. Nice people, crazy people, happy people, cool people, interesting people, strange people, all kinds of flavors of people. And there is a lesson to be learned each time from each person. Each person has their own story. And I think through other people, one can learn more about themselves, regardless of who that person in question may be. This is how we learn about ourselves and how we grow, is from other people and from our experiences with other people. Some of those people have stayed in my life for a lifetime so far. Some of those people have only stayed for a certain amount of time. And vice versa. I have been a part of some people's life for almost a whole lifetime. And then some people I have been apart for a limited amount of time. And that's okay. You know, parting ways doesn't necessarily make a judgment. There's no need to make a judgment on any one person. Sometimes the path is different. There are many paths. There are many paths and roads. And sometimes we choose to go on a different path than someone else. And that's okay, and it doesn't make anything bad or wrong. It is just what it is. It is what it is. I've had to let go of people, places, and things all my life to some extent or another. And I think that's going to, well, I know that's going to be a continuous thing, because that's life. Once again, I've said that before. That's how life is. So, this is what I will be working on for the remainder of the summer. As I said, I've been working on it for a lifetime, but this summer, and since a couple of months and continuing on for the rest of the summer, it will be a higher focus. It will be a more intensive routine. And there will be extra things done to really bring that home. The banishing and the protection rituals, and detaching and exercising and invoking that spirit of indifference. and neutralizing. Becoming indifferent, that quality of indifference. You know, when someone is indifferent towards you, it's different than when someone is hateful towards you or when someone is loving towards you. When someone loves you, there's a lot of energy there. When someone admires you and they love you, there's a lot of energy they're giving you that's coming your way from that person. When someone hates you or despises you, or when they're angry at you, they're giving you a lot of energy. Again, it's a lot of energy. It may be negative, but still, there's a lot of energy. When you're angry at someone, when you're hateful at someone, there's a lot of energy you're giving out. But when you're indifferent, there's nothing there. It's the death energy. There's no love. There's no hate. It's nothing. Zero. There is no energy to feed off of. There is no energy there to continue inflaming a toxic, dysfunctional situation or person or place or thing or attitude within yourself or perception, ways of seeing things. When indifference really and truly kicks in, it is just that. It is like Lent. How do you feel about Lent? You ever get really pissed and angry at Lent? No. Do you love Lent? Or can you stop thinking about Lent? Have you ever ranted and raved or gotten turned on by Lent? No. Lent is just Lent. There's nothing there. It's just these gray little pieces of Lent. And that's how I symbolize indifference, is Lent. I don't feel any kind of way about Lent. So when I invoke that indifference, it really, really tends to help me and serves me very well. And it gives me a certain kind of empowerment. It can give you an empowerment to become indifferent towards certain situations, certain people, places, and things. Indifference, detachment, neutralizing, and setting some boundaries, getting some distance and some space.
Je veux que maman soit fière de moi. Chaque jour mon match c'est la folie. Je vis sans savoir ce que je vais faire demain. Yeah, 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 yeah. Obligé de rouler avant de m'endormir. Yeah, 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 yeah. Obligé de rouler avant de m'endormir. Yeah. Je peux pas t'expliquer pourquoi je suis pas là. Oh là là, oh là là. J'aimerais la laisser partir mais je peux pas là là. Obligé de rouler avant de m'endormir. Yeah, 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 yeah. Obligé de rouler avant de m'endormir.